This is the pull to sit maneuver. And over time, the baby goes from having a completely lagging head to being able to keep the head not only even with the body, but leading. That's going to happen by 4 months. Now, head control is then followed by rolling over. And while baby's gross motor skills are developing, in those first couple of months, baby's also taking time to really explore her hands, bringing her hands and often her toes to her mouth, looking at her hand to say, this is a part of my body. If I do things, I can control it. And then being able to swipe at objects and grab at objects by 4 months. Motor control develops from the neck downward. So we saw that first the neck control comes into play, then rolling over involves having control over the upper torso. The next motor skill is sitting. Baby becomes more stable when placed in sitting, and it's actually very nicely illustrated by this string of babies in sitting. Okay, this is a little baby. This is a 4 or 5 month old. She needs her arms to maintain herself. Her back is not straight. She's like a complete C. Now, what's going to happen, her control of her back is going to go down her back, and this baby is a little older and able to sit with a straighter back. And this baby can completely control his spine. He doesn't need to rely on his arms to basically protect him from falling. So those hands are available to play. Moving on to 5 to 9 months. At 9 months, many babies are pulling to stand. They may start to crawl as well, but this happens to be a skill that is actually not considered a milestone because about 15% of babies don't crawl, and there are different crawling styles. This baby's commando crawling. She's a very little crawler. She can't get her tummy off the ground. This bigger boy, he's in the typical quadruped, hand and legs are moving very, very symmetrically. And this little girl as well. When babies crawling like that, they're leaving the room. They're really pursuing their own agenda and interests. They're also now pulling erect, pulling to stand initially in the crib, and then pulling to stand on the coffee table, and walking, holding on, or cruising. Experience and temperament will impact on how quickly the baby moves now from that stage to walking. So for example, babies who are held and not given an opportunity to be on the floor will often walk a little bit later. Babies who spend a lot of time in a baby walker and aren't given free rein will also often walk a bit later. A timid baby or a nervous baby who has a bad fall the first time they take their first step out will probably take a step back and need a little bit of time to try again. Between 12 and 18 months, though, most babies do start to walk. And the new walker has a very distinct gait pattern. The legs are wide apart, arms are up to help with balance, and they don't bend their knees much. Now this boy, he's a little older. His legs are coming together, his arms are more under his control, and here's the little boy from the beginning. He's running. His feet are very close together, and he can use his arms for completely other tasks. Over time, motor milestones include the ability to have the balance to stoop and recover, and to do my favorite toddler pose, stooping and recover. And then toddlers like to squat while they play. No one else can do this, only little toddlers. Okay. And I like to refer to the phase of 18 to 24 months as being playground ready. The baby has gone from a lump to now walking turns to running. The baby is a toddler. able to go upstairs. We're going to see some stair going up, going down, kicking balls, throwing things, and jumping. And again, the gait of a 24-month-old is quite mature. It really does look like a mature gait. It is narrow-based, the feet are close together, the arms are swinging, and it's got a heel-toe pattern. Okay, so boiling it down to what to look for: head control by 4 months, sitting by 9 months. And by the way, we've watched sitting get later since babies were put to sleep on their back. Another example of how experience impacts on skill acquisition. And by 18 months, babies should be walking. Okay, let's move on to communication. So I think when it comes to motor development, most people intuitively understand that skills build upon each other, and a child isn't going to walk before she can sit, and these things need to occur in order and build upon each other. But for whatever reason, after all these years of doing this type of stuff with parents and in my social life, I'm amazed at how many people don't apply that same logic to language. Even though the child is making no sounds, making no efforts to communicate in any way, the parents often still think the child's going to open their mouth and talk in sentences, possibly tomorrow. But we can gauge how communication is going way before the first word ever appears by following the attainment of pre-language communication skills. We can follow that process along, nurture it, and anticipate difficulties so that we can intervene. Hold on a second. Language is the use of words in a structured and conventional way. But I'm using the word communication here because it's a means of connection between people for the purpose of exchanging information. You need two people to communicate. Communication is the functional use of language. And in order to develop, there must be social interest, social awareness, social interest, and social motivation. And it's actually that social component of communication that we can look for and monitor and nurture long before that first word. Social awareness can be gauged through engagement, attention to language, and communicative efforts. So why don't we look at the different ages and see how the baby manifests engagement, attention to language, and communicative efforts. Okay, I happen to love this video, social capability. As I had said, they prefer to look at faces and listen to voices over other stimuli. They match facial expressions. It is quite amazing what newborn babies can do. But by 2 months, when parents often have a sense that their child has woken up and entered the real world, look at everything a baby can bring to the interaction. This is an 8-week-old.
Can you follow the toy? Oh.
You hear the conversation that's going on?
I hear you. Oh.
That baby was so engaged with Mom. Their eyes were locked. She's smiling, he's smiling. He's vocalizing, she's vocalizing back, and they are having a conversation. This is a 2-month-old. By 5 to 9 months, babies are very attentive to people around them. And they show that interest and attention by where they're looking, their facial expressions, and their own actions, such as imitation. Again, it is amazing how early babies can do some of this. Okay, she's a ham. This girl loves attention. She is 7 months old. She can imitate. Okay. Babies learn through imitation, and this is happening very, very early. Okay. Now, in this same 5 to 9 month age range, baby is attentive to language. They're really paying attention to all the language in their environment. And the biggest clues we get is that this is an age where the baby, when you call the baby's name specifically, the baby should turn to you. Okay? They're not just responding to a voice. They are responding to a word they hear frequently, their name. So we can imagine that if you see a baby much older, 15 months, 19 months, 2 years of age, who isn't responding when called, it's really going to stand out because this baby can do it much younger. And at the same time, the baby's starting to follow commands with gesture, things they've been introduced to, things they've practiced.
Look over there.
Mom can direct her attention.
Yan. Ready ka, Mami? Ready ka, Mama?
Babies this age, of course, they don't have any words yet in general, but they're using their eye contact, they're vocalizing and gestures, and they are building on the communication we saw in the little baby. Sorry, I can't find the... By 9 to 12 months, babies are very social engaged. They really want to have your attention all the time. They are very, very attentive to language and actually able to follow commands without gesturing. Those initial commands are things they've been introduced to through routines. So this is something a parent can do by establishing routines. We're going bye-bye. Baby will hear going bye-bye, and the parent waving bye-bye about 100 times before one day the parent says, okay, we got to get ready, we're going to go bye-bye. And then the baby, without the mother's example, it's not imitation anymore. The baby hears bye-bye, and there they are, bye-bye. Oops.
Round and round the people on the bus go up and down.
Okay, he's not watching her. He knows these words. Okay, he's 9 months old. And the important communicative skill that the baby acquires now in this age range is the all-important point.
Where is it? You point. Point to it. There it is.
Took us a long time to get that video. But the pointing is a very important, very specific gesture. I want that. Look at that interesting thing over there. You only do those things if you're communicating with someone, and it is a two-way street. And it's also right around after the point that the first words typically emerge. Now, in the 12 to 18-month range, baby is socially engaged and more mobile, and she is actively exploring her environment and chasing after things of interest, following mom or dad around, curious about everything and primed to imitate. Functional play emerges. Now at this age, baby's no longer putting things in their mouth primarily, not banging things, not throwing things. Now this is play that incorporates language, and the parent being on hand to use that language is modeling that language that the baby can then imitate and then call their own.
Gracias.
This is a very little baby, but the baby understands this doll is meant to be a baby, and I'm going to feed this baby. That symbolism that goes along with language understanding and language production. Okay. The attention to language in this age group is manifest by understanding more commands.
You see, where's the baby's nose?
Yeah.